Hey Overwatch League fans, welcome to week 3 of season 2, stage 1 of the Overwatch League. This is your early late recap with me, Kieran Marchant. And today's games overall pretty good, pretty damn good. They had some really highs, they had some kind of lows, but overall we had a great day of games again. Day kicked off with Washington Justice versus the Philadelphia Fusion, going to 4 maps, just the normal 4, with going 3-1 to the Philadelphia Fusion. Many questions were hanging around Fusion as, are they a capable team as long as Boombox is in? Is Boombox the missing link after going 0-2 in last week's games without Boombox? But this game didn't come easy. This was still a very close game in many ways, with Washington Justice really taking the game to the Philadelphia Fusion. Washington are still lackluster in many ways, though, even with Janus really stepping up to probably his homecoming game where he played quite fantastically in that main tank position. He spent much of the game making plays that seemed to should, or at least would, win a team fight for a normal team. Just couldn't quite cut the mustard for the team and finish off with the kills. Philadelphia looked slow and sluggish at the start, but they did build to a pretty positive win in the 4th map, Route 66, having a very, very impressive hold on the second point in the Streets phase. The only questions coming out of this really is, what team is Philadelphia Fusion? Are they continuing their lackluster performance of last season with trying going close every time they play a team that they're supposed to win against? Are they a really strong unit that could be winning consistently but seem to, come and fall at the last moment? Well, we'll see more of that in the coming week. But I'm interested to see exactly what happens with the Philadelphia Fusion and whenabouts Washington Justice are going to get their first win. Washington Justice are a solid team. I think they have good moments. Corey's a fantastic player. Janus is stepping up. I think there's hope there, but they have to find it and put it together and be able to finish off the kills when given the opportunities to do so. This probably was the second worst match of the day. I think it was a good opener for the day's round, but it wasn't absolutely fantastic. Now, on to match 2 for the day. The Seoul Dynasty versus the Boston Uprising. Boston Uprising coming off the historic loss to the Shanghai Dragons in their first win of the Overwatch League ever. The Boston Uprising were finally rejoined with their main tank Fusions after some contract issues arose last week, preventing him from playing in that game. Now, it was interesting to see coming forward the hope for the Boston Uprising with this potential and with this team. This is the roster that they've wanted to field the whole time. This is the roster where before Color Hex could serve as bans, before Fusion had to go through the contract process again, this is the team they wanted, and they played fantastically. They played really well. Seoul Dynasty played to a decent standard the entire time. Seoul Dynasty did look lackluster, and this did lead to the Boston Uprising taking this game 3-1. Now, Seoul Dynasty overall looked quite polished. I'm not a massive fan of their support duo, and I think Munchkin at times is not living up to the standard of Overwatch League level in many ways, but overall, something about Seoul Dynasty just couldn't keep up with going goats v goats. They just couldn't keep up with the ferocity of the Uprising Goats with having Fusions as their main tank. Just the whole team looks so much better when Fusions is in that role. So I really hope nothing prevents the Chin Lord himself from continuing to play a massive role in that team. Axiom is a very capable main tank, but he just doesn't seem to gel or bring the team together in such a way that Fusions does. Michelle continues to be the shining light on the Seoul Dynasty. I think Michelle is my favorite player on the team. Fisher is outstanding as always. Fleta is Fleta, but Michelle is really going the extra mile for plays. I think they were lacking today when they didn't run Michelle on that Sombra. Munchkin played the Sombra for most of the maps, where they did choose to go Sombra, but I think Munchkin overall is just a better Sombra player and really made an impact when he was in that role in previous matches. Now, Boston Uprising look very promising. They do need to continue winning to make it to the stage playoffs, but I think with Fusion at the helm, it's going to be really, really good. I think their Goats looks clean. They've got a decent wide array of characters. They were able to show a good understanding of the game for when to swap onto necessary heroes to make a difference. Aim God looks fantastic on his Zenyatta. As a whole, the team is operating really well. I think this is a team to keep an eye on for the coming stage because they're looking great in this meta. They're looking good. Something about the Boston Uprising putting together teams from a wide array of locations is really quite interesting. So I'm excited to see how this plays out going forward. Now for the third match, probably the low light of the day, the Florida Mayhem versus the Guangzhou Charge. Should have been the thriller, going 5 maps with the Guangzhou Charge, decimating the Mayhem in the final map on Ilios, 2-0. I was hopeful. Mayhem showed some really good aspects with the pickup of McGravy. McGravy previously of the Uprising Academy. McGravy's a fantastic player in general, and his D.Va play was really outstanding for the entire map today, or all the maps that he played. I think he's been a great addition to the Mayhem, and I'm excited to see where he does, or how he does, going forward. But it wasn't enough. The Guangzhou Charge really have a decent depth with their roster. But this depth didn't seem to always carry through. Games still felt really close. There was still a lot of back and forth, and they didn't really seem to have the control of the match that many top teams do throughout the Overwatch League games against these lower ranked teams. Now, is the Charge able to stand up and continue to play at a high level? Well, we'll see as the stage comes to an end in a couple of weeks' time and playoffs begin, because I'm pretty sure Charge will make playoffs. I just don't know how much of an impact they're going to have on their game. Happy is a fantastic Widow player. We all know that hotbar has an impact on Tracer, unlike any other off-tank player really does. I was really glad to see more and more of Kib in this roster. Overall, this game was back and forth, but it was not fantastic Overwatch in general. I think it was a bit lackluster, as I've said a couple times already through this video. Florida Mayhem looked better than they should, but I'm interested to see how they continue with McGravy now in the roster as they grow together and continue to work together, despite issues obviously beginning with their start. It's interesting to know that the Florida Mayhem are using fully English comms, considering that many of the team are Korean-speaking players. So I'm interested to see how Florida Mayhem grow and continue to grow in the coming future. Now, the final match is probably going to be the talking point of the day, the Hangzhou Spark taking on the San Francisco Shock. San Francisco Shock have gone 1-2 so far this season, with the Hangzhou Spark being 2-2. The week 1 difference between week 1 and week 2 Spark is completely different. Week 2 were very, very poor in their playstyle. They looked lost at many times. Unlike the week 1, which were the juggernauts that many of us had come to expect coming into the season. Now, the Shock's an interesting case because they're another juggernaut we expected. They're one of my top teams that I had pegged for the year. But they seem to be still finding themselves with their depth of their roster. Who are they playing when? When are they swapping in and out? I'm really glad that they've settled on running Super more than Smurf in the main tank role. I think even though there's been comments about Super's main tanking role or his ability, he really showed a fine performance today in the 3-1 victory over the Spark. Now, San Francisco Shock looked really tight on the defenses, especially on Hollywood, where they only got a tick and a half on the first point, but still managed to full hold that point. And really locked down the win from there. Many of the times Spark looked like it was lost. It was unsure of where it's going. And it's interesting to note that the continual swapping between No Smite and Guxue it seems to be very disruptive for the team. Guxue looked fantastic in the first map. The team looked playing well around him, even though there is a clear language barrier between them. No Smite is a Korean-speaking player, so you'd think that the comms would be a lot easier, but much of the time in the 3 maps afterwards that No Smite played, the team did not look comfortable, it did not look focused, it did not look like it had any kind of leadership, which I think it did seem to have during the Guxue fights in the 1 map that they won. Now, with this, the San Francisco Shock go their record to 2-2. With a very tough stage ahead, they've still got a chance to make playoffs, and I hope we continue to see this San Francisco Shock continue to play through. They're a very strong team, and there's some very unique individual players. I think Super, as I've already mentioned, been playing very well. Violet is probably my MVP of the year so far, and Moth has been playing absolutely fantastic on that main support role. Sinatra has been amazing. I think the only point of contest in this team at the moment is the Brigitte play. I'm not sure if Rascal is the best suit for that Brigitte role. Should one of the other DPS players be stepping into it? It's been an interesting mix and match for the team, but it was great to see them get a win today. Now tune in tomorrow for another fantastic day of Overwatch League. Check us out on Twitter at ExplosionPod or me personally on Twitter at your boy Ringo. Please subscribe to us here on youtube.com/Explosion Network, or check out all of our podcasts, news, and everything under the sun that we do at explosionnetwork.com. I've been Kieran Marchant, and this has been your early late recap for Overwatch League Season 2, Stage 1, Week 3, Day 1. Thank you. Enjoy tomorrow.